All right, sweet. I was just saying, Kuti, we've
Yeah.
got similar cameras, but when I saw your video on Love on the podcast, I was like, what cinema camera is this guy using? You know,
Well, so I mean, even though it may have a cinematic feel, I mean that's now color grading and all of that stuff. So yeah, so I'm glad I sold the dream. I'm very glad that I sold the dream.
You definitely sold the dream. You need to put me onto that color grading stuff. Yo, bro, I'm struggling. I'm struggling to master it, but I think it's a learning curve. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, but also
something that takes time.
you. I mean, one another big element of it is your lighting as well as the lens that you use as well. So, yeah, those are some of the main factors to get
What
it
lens
right
do
with
you
all.
have on at the moment?
Right now I have my 18 to 55 because yeah, I mean to get even though if I want to have my expressions and reactions and stuff, you can see my hands, my movement. Whereas if I put on what would be super clean is if I put on my 35 millimeter. My gosh,
But
yo
then
yo yo
that's super
that.
wide, is it not? Like you're seeing your
No,
whole.
no, no, no. 35 millimeters not wide.
It's not that wide.
It's no, 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 it's not. It actually is a bit of a close up. Yeah, it's not that wide. It's a fixed focus lens. So with the distance of the tripod to me, yeah,
It's a
it's
good
a bit of a
distance.
sticky
What's the
one.
aperture on it? How much light are we getting in this one?
Dude, 1.8, my bro.
No ways! No ways!
Dude, that
Now
thing
that's
is
dandy.
mint, dog.
Now that is
That thing
dandy.
is bro, that
That
ham
is
is
dandy.
it's not
That is-
dandy. It's dandy.
Woo,
It's
that is
dandy.
clean. I like that. So you're probably using
Yeah.
that for a lot of your like your client work and things like that.
Yeah,
Making
yeah,
sure
definitely. I mean, I did a project over the last 2 weeks, and I used that 35 millimeter. Dude, it's clean. Like,
I can imagine, bro. I can imagine the
My-
crispness. And for me personally,
it's too much.
I'm biased, bro. Like I'm biased. For me, if I find something that I like, if I find something that I enjoy to use, I'm gonna stick to it. If it never gives me problems. So the first thing I ever used was a Nikon, bro. It's the first thing I ever owned. So when people come in and they talk about Canon and Sony, and I mean, yo, dude, Sony is definitely rated. I wouldn't mind using it, but I'm like, I'm committed. I'm like Nikon
Bro.
is everything, bro. You know what I'm saying?
The way our stories are so similar is actually scary, dude. Like for me as well, I've been team Nikon since day one, dog. So I mean, my very first camera was a BenQ digital camera, and then I used it for about 1.5 years. Yeah, until I started using my first experience with the DSLR was in 2013. So my BenQ, I got it in 2011, right? So 2013 was the first time I experienced a DSLR, and it was a Nikon. I was like, yo, I have to get my own. It was dude, I think it was if I remember correctly, it was a D70. And dude, 2012, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was a D70 or D700, one of the two. I know it was at a 7 there. But at that point, I mean, it was a mid-range camera. At that time, it was still quite mint, right? And I was like, yo, I like this, moving from, from digital to DSLR. I was like, whoa, this is super cool. And so I did that for about 1.5 years before I got my first DSLR, which was then, I mean, I tasted Nikon. I liked Nikon. I was like, okay, this is where we're at. And so my first DSLR, the one that I owned, was D3300. That was my first DSLR.
You've been in the game for a while, bro. Damn.
Yeah, bro. So after the D3300, then I got this one, the D5500. So my next Nikon, I'm praying to God that it will be a full frame, a glass though. Glass 5. D5 is too much, dude. That's 100 and something K, bro. Maybe I might do D800. Because that's a nice full frame. It's a bit.
But as Godri Tafika, Takwita Beg, we're getting to the point where we're making money, right? So I mean, D5, is it a thing? Is it a thing?
No, but also I don't rate the D5 anymore. I mean, I've seen a lot of reviews.
Camera.
Yeah. Yeah, so with all the reviews and stuff, I'm yet to see the goodness in D5 compared to what's happening now. Like it might be just overkill, which is unnecessary. So I really like the D800. Even the D850 as well is
No, the
really
J50
exciting
is a good
because
camera. Yeah, that's an intact
yeah,
camera. Mhm.
yeah, because also at least even with video, it's got 4K. So that would be
Quality.
exciting.
We see you trying to go for quality over
My
here.
guy, we're not playing games. We are
We
out
love it.
here.
No, we love it for sure. We love it for sure. And I mean, we
Yeah.
just touched a little bit on it just now. It's love on the podcast, bro. Like, what's going on with that? What's the idea? What's the inspiration with it? And for people who don't know, just please explain what love on the podcast is and where you're trying to take that.
Super. So, Love on a Podcast is a platform where we talk about anything and everything to do with love. Okay, so to an extent, it's that simple. It's literally everything and anything to do with love on a podcast through conversation, through opinion pieces, through commentary, through teachings, through lessons, through insightful presentations of sorts by me, as well as I'm planning on having guests on, and so yeah, man, it's very exciting because, like, I mean, dude, it's love, bro. And love is very, very expansive. Love is very dense. There's so much to talk about when it comes to love. And so I'm excited that I have this extensive bank of content and topics to pick from as I talk about love. And so even with love, right, there's the aspect of love in relationships. There's the aspect of love for what you do. There's the aspect of love for who you love, what you love, if it's an item. I hope we won't get into idolatry, but but run with me. It's very exciting because, yeah, I mean, where it came from. So for a couple of years now, I've really taken on this journey to celebrate love, anything and everything to do with love. So it started with my series called Mazirudo Monday. Right. And Mazirudo in Shona roughly means love overload. Right. Or a whole lot of love. Right. So, listen, a whole lot of love. Like it's very exciting because, you know, I started it on my WhatsApp, right? So on my WhatsApp statuses, I would post it first happened subconsciously, right? I mean, I at that time, being in a relationship influenced it, but also just the space I was in, you know, my family, extended family, friends, very close friends. I developed this habit of posting and celebrating people on my status, through my status, talking about what I appreciate about them, what I love about them and stuff. So coincidentally, in a month, if I posted as often as I did, a lot of the times it would be on a Monday. And I mean, yeah, like through reflection or just some sort of epiphany, I was like, wait, this actually happens on a Monday quite a lot. And so I was thinking to myself, I mean, I'm big on branding, right? So I'm a brand enthusiast. And so I was like, how can I brand this and make it a thing? Right. So, I mean, it's love, but then I don't know, there's no day in the week that starts with L. So why not find some sort of, bring it home, at least there's Mazirudo, right? Yeah, so that's how it became a thing that, hey, on Mondays, I post about love, at least dedicated posts to do with love. Let's call it Mazirudo Monday. And so even with me, just how a lot of the times, if it's like a signature of sorts, you know, as you say bye to someone, as you affirm someone, it's like, Asha, Mazirudo, bro, I've got so much love for you type thing. Or, so it's kind of just part of my vocab, and then it became a thing that I then branded to celebrate love and to be about love. So, so so love on a podcast has just been another extension to me celebrating love, because I also direct a community of young adults called Love on a Weekday. And so even though they're related, they're not specifically linked, right? That being Love on a Podcast and Love on a Weekday. It's just that it's an extension of what I do. And so if it has anything and everything to do with love, there are ties and links between all of them. So yeah, Love on a Podcast then became a platform for me to talk, to express, to communicate, what I love about love, everything to do with love. So yeah, it's like very exciting. I've planned 2 months, 2 entire months worth of content for you guys.
I was
It's
shocked.
gonna be exciting.
I think you dropped the video and then you were like, 2 days later you're dropping another one. I'm like, hey, whoa, we haven't consumed the first one yet, and you're already
Listen,
more.
my
I'm
guy,
this is what we live for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Consistency in content creation, and I think a lot of the times, and I think I fell victim to that as well. Is we start projects with no plan, and there's good intentions and there's drive, but it kind of just fades out. And I've seen it in a lot of people and a lot of creators as well. Is oh, whatever happened to that thing, that project? And it's like, you didn't plan, you know? So I dig that and I appreciate that. Some people might say it's overkill, but I think after 2 months, there's so much content that you really can't back out. Now you've got people looking at you like, hey, bruh, we're waiting for the next one. You know what I mean? And you've got that drive going on. So I appreciate that. But how do you plan for 2 months worth of content? How do you do that?
So it's actually quite interesting. I mean, I actually wanted to start this podcast earlier on in the year, right? In February, March, around there. But again, as you've just rightfully put it, that consistency needs to be a thing. And so what I realized from my past experiences with content creation, preparation, and all of that stuff, it became very apparent that consistency was more difficult to attain than it is. And so I had to prepare for it and plan for it. And so what I think a trick or a skill that I've learned in that light is to produce content ahead of schedule, and then when you then publish, you publish consistently. So as I said, I know that I've committed to posting every single Monday for the next 2 months. Right. So listen, bro, it's crazy. Wow. And so what I can then do to make my life easier, I have scheduled recording days and editing days to then go about 2-3 weeks ahead of schedule. So wow. I know that. So instead of recording episodes, so I'm planning. I think in the 2 months that I've got content, it's I think at least 12 Mondays, right? So I think it's about 12 Mondays. Let me just confirm that. But yeah, I think it's about 10 or 12 Mondays. Let me just see. 1, 2, 3, 6. Yeah, 10. Okay, so there are 10 Mondays, right? So 10, I know that I have to have at least 10 episodes in the bag no matter what, right? And so what I can then do is every time I record at least 2 episodes. So that I know that I'm ahead of the schedule. So even when I then use the digital tools, I can then schedule the posts and I'm done. I can sit knowing that come rain, come thunder, my episodes are out, or at least they're scheduled to be published, and people will not be disappointed.
Yeah. Like you're saying, come rain, come thunder, because sometimes if you leave it to, I'll only record in the week that I want to upload, things do come up. Like for example,
yeah.
Like for example, today, just setting up for this thing in itself, we had to push it and move it because different things do come up, and that's life, right? Things come up, things that are beyond our control. And if you haven't planned to release content ahead of, and this is just a life tip in general, if you haven't planned for that inevitability, you're in trouble. You're in deep trouble, you know? So I dig your approach to this. It's very commendable. I think I can learn a lot from it.
Thank you so much, bro. I mean, yeah, think about it. So, the first episode came out on the 16th of July, which was this past Friday, right? Then for the next 2 Mondays, it'll be just me, with my own opinion pieces or presentations. Then, so what I want to do is like Monday, every Monday set, but every other Friday, I'll then have a feature show with a guest. So you'll have some weeks that have 2 episodes. of which the episodes with the guests, I have already got 2 in the bag. I'm planning to have 5, so 2 are already set.
Uh,
So now, bro, we're not playing games. Like
okay,
I've
so here's an
yeah.
important question in relation to this. It's something I've asked a lot of people who I speak to on this thing. It's the aspect of finding and striking a balance. And I'm going to go off and assume that there's other things that you do outside of making content. Uh, I know that you're into music, but I know as well that you take photos and you get paid to do that kind of thing. So that's a lot going on the front of the podcast in and of itself. That's a ton of work. Like I can relate because I run something very similar. But how then do you make sure you strike a balance to ensure that everything in your life gets a fair balance? And as a Christian as well, you need to make sure that your relationship is with God is intact, right? There's fellowship with the body, and then there's things like quiet times and prayer in the morning and the evening and ministry work and things like that. But how do you make sure that everything in your life gets equal attention?
I've certainly not always gotten it right. I'm learning. I think I'm one thing that's been quite humbling is the very real push to be intentional about what I prioritize. So as much as I do a lot of things, and I'm very fulfilled in everything that I do. I'm studying, I'm producing, I'm directing, I'm creating, I'm leading, I'm following, I'm being inspired. I also inspire. So a
Let's
lot is going on in my
go.
life, right?
Yes,
No,
sir.
listen, my life is it's very dynamic. It's a movie of sorts. But what has helped me to get it right is just being real with myself, being honest with myself, and learning to prioritize. And so that's been difficult. I mean, I think it's also been a thing of determining what I want to do and what I have to do. Um, and that as well as called for reality checks like Godfrey. Don't be dizzy, bro. Like you know what you have to do. Yes, this is what you want to do, but there's no time to do what you want to do before you do what you need to do. So that's helped. And then very practical things. As I round up my response, very practical things. I've grown to using to help me with my scheduling, my planning, and all of that is using digital resources. Man, there's Google Calendars. There's what is this called? I have a whiteboard that I actually write down my task list. It kind of it's in your face. Like I've got on my wall in front of me, I've got things where like, bro, you need to do this now with exclamation marks in capital letters and in bold. And also I must say then in closing, I've also been very fortunate. I really would say this sincerely that God to some extent stands in as my personal assistant because I'll tell you why. I'm a very ambitious young man, and sometimes I bite more than I can chew. I'll be honest. I'll be transparent, and I'll lay it on the table. Sometimes I bite more than I can chew, but you find a client will suddenly cancel something, or a meeting suddenly gets postponed, and I used to get bummed about that, but now sometimes I'm grateful. Like, yo, God, thank you so much that meeting got moved. Now I can rest. Or God, thank you so much that the client can't come because now I can focus on something else that's actually more important. So, yeah, so that's how I manage it. Honestly, I'm learning to be more organized. I'm learning to ask for help. Bro, can you help me with this? Can you remind me about that? I'm learning to delegate. So sometimes I can be a maverick and try to do everything by myself. And I realize, Godfrey, you are not Chuck Norris. You need a team. You need people who can help you. So yeah, it's a very dense response, but I think I've presented something solid there.
I definitely understand what you're saying. And there's a lot in there, like you said, it's very dense, but it's something that's very much relatable. I think on the aspect of realizing that you can't do everything by yourself, humbling yourself enough to ask for help, it's a huge thing. It's a huge thing, and especially if it's a personal project. You're like, I don't think they're gonna do it the way I want it to come out, or not even if it's a personal project, but just anything in general. You're tasked with something, and you're like, you my graft, and but it becomes a little bit overwhelming sometimes. Um, And another really beautiful one that I loved is trying to find the beauty in everything and trying to give praise and glory to God in situations where things don't really go the way you want it. And I love that. It's like you don't get a job, you don't get a gig, you're like, I'm grateful that I can rest. It's like crazy to be in a position where if someone was looking at it from the external point of view, just generally speaking in the world, if you ask someone, they'd be like, nah, that's a bad situation. Like you lost money. Like, no, I gained rest, or I was able to have a quiet time, so it's things like that. It's a mentality like that that I think is vital. I think not just as a content creator, but as a basic human being and as a Christian, man, just like flowing through life in general that way and seeing I think it talks about Yanzi, be grateful and thankful in every situation. Like so whether it's good or bad, it's, God has allowed it to happen for a reason, and there's beauty in that. And if you're able to open up your eyes and your heart and your mind to find the beauty in it, I think you're in a safe space.
Yeah,
You're
no,
in a very, very, very healthy space.
yeah, definitely. I mean, it's also come with maturity. I really do believe that. I mean, I know that when I was much younger, downtime was not a thing, right? Like, downtime, what it looked like would be predominantly weekends after a weekday or a week at school, right? Where Monday to Friday, you have school, you have sports, you have clubs, you have societies, you have all these activities. It's packed back to back, event after event, activity after activity. Then your downtime was the weekend where you can chill, PlayStation, Xbox, whatever, play,
Go to church,
go,
go to your
go,
friend's place.
go see, go to your friends' place, sleepovers, whatever. So that was the downtime, but it wasn't really downtime because you're just picking up something else, right? You're no longer busy, but now you're spending time with people, you're having fun and you're playing. Whereas when you're now maturing, downtime really is downtime. It's like now you can take a nap. Now you can just sit and do nothing. Now you can sleep in. Now you can watch series, catch up on movies. Like downtime is so different when you're maturing. And so I'm learning to do that. I mean, I also had my phase where every weekend became if it wasn't spending time with people, it was now working, doing other projects and stuff. Now it's like, no, wait, bro. Find a Saturday where it's just you, right? And that helped because also burnout is a real thing, bro.
I was going to speak about that. I was actually going to ask that on that topic of downtime. Man, do I overwork myself? And I think it's unhealthy. I don't know. I asked someone recently actually that is it possible to avoid burnout? The concept of burnout. Like if you were able to balance your life out in a very good way and take needed rest when you're not overworking yourself, is it possible to avoid burnout? And I think that it is because I don't think it's healthy to get to a point where you're frustrated and you can't create because you weren't taking enough breaks and you weren't balancing out, your work and your creativity. Because it is work. It does take a strain on your body, despite the fact that you're good at it, or almost comes naturally and you enjoy it. It does take away your energy and it does take away a part of you, and you kind of need to re-energize. So, do you struggle with that? And how do you deal with instances of burnout, bro? Because that's a very much like a real thing.
Yeah. So I like what you said about avoiding burnout. I think there's firstly the very first instance when you do get burnt out. So I think avoiding burnout is a lot more real when you've been burnt out. You know, um, yeah. So it's the thing where a person knows how to avoid trouble because they've been in trouble before. Do you know? You catch my drift. So
Experience is the best teacher.
Listen, you summed it up well by saying experience is the best teacher. So I've been burnt out a couple of times, in fact, where through various things, and I think then what I've learned to do I think I sort of spoke about it briefly earlier, that you then learn to adjust through maturity. You're real with yourself. You're honest with yourself about what you're capable of doing and what you're not capable of doing, and then you apply yourself. So I've even just like what recovery looks like as well. And
That's the thing. I think
yeah.
we almost end up once you're burnt out, how you deal with it again is almost like the worst way to deal with it. So I think it goes beyond being in a burnt out situation and learning what burnt out is, but how you pick yourself up from that, because I think that's very important. It does almost shape who you are when you come out of it. You know, how you deal with the situation you're in, I think is also very important. And it's something that I haven't grasped, bro. Like, I feel like I'm constantly finding myself in situations where I'm like, oh, shit, this is too much. And I'm in and out of it again. I think in the last year or two, I've been like heavily burnt out like 2 or 3 times, which is like insane. That's a lot. I think for me, I don't know if people share it a lot, but for me, I think, yo, why so much? Like, what's going on? Where am I getting it wrong? You know, asking those kinds of questions.
I mean,
So
it definitely goes with each season, you know. More specifically when you are building. Um, yeah, bro. Like, you know, there aren't specifically any assigned hours. You're kind of just going with the flow. You want to do as much as you can. Again, also ambition goes a long way in that light as well. Um, so there's a lot to it, I do believe. I mean, you'll get it right and then you also get it wrong, and yeah,
yeah,
you
like
learn
like we
along the
say, I
way.
think experience is the best teacher.
Yeah.
But my first experience with you was definitely as a musician, as pieced together. That's the first ever. I didn't even know your name was Godfrey. What I knew was pieced together. You know, it's like, dang, this guy's music. I'm just gonna go out and say it here that you are talented, my guy. Like, absolutely amazing. I've said it behind the scenes. I've said it off camera. And I'm gonna say it again. That the work that you're doing, musically speaking, uh, that's something special. And I only can't wait to see the podcast develop, because if you can do that musically, I mean, you can do anything, you know. But how does, you know, one young Godfrey Taffy grow to become pieced together? What's the story? And I mean, you already have 2 separate accounts. There's pieced together, and then there's Godfrey Taffy. You know it's real when you've got 2 separate accounts. You know it's lit. You know it's lit. But I think it comes back to the concept of branding that you were talking about. So tell us a little bit more about Pieced Together as a brand,
Yeah.
as its
I
own
I I
identity.
I thoroughly love talking about peace together. It really gives me a lot of fulfillment. Peace together is another extension of me as a person, as a creative artist, as a lover of Christ, as a liker of things, godly things, just to clarify. Um,
Let's go.
no, I
Disclaimer,
like things, guys.
disclaimer.
I'm unapologetic about it. I'm very aware of it. I like
Let's
things,
go, bro.
but I like godly things. No, for real. I mean, just a side note. I've seen the evidence of that over the years, right? Where events like Christian events, concerts, youth groups. I'm there. Like, especially with Zoom, you'd find me in chat rooms, youth events, virtual events, church.
But you're
I'm
not just
there.
there, you're there contributing as
I'm
well. You're there
contributing,
chatting as
I'm
well.
invested, I'm learning, I'm growing. So yeah, it's really been a part of my brand as well to connect with people and just like and just be a like of things, godly things. But anyway, so with as I said, it's an extension of me. Piece together is an extension of me as a person. So I'm very sentimental in my personality, in my character, in my persona, and I grew very fond of the meaning of names, right? And so I started searching into my names, you know, like knowing that my first name is Godfrey. That's actually my dad's name as well. So I'm Godfrey Jr. But also my second name is Tafadzwa, right? So I know what tafadzo means. Tafadzo, for those who don't know, means we've been made happy, or we've found joy, right? So and right, so that's tafadzo, and so I've seen myself living out my name where I bring joy to a space, to people, and stuff like that, right? And then with Godfrey, it's crazy how only up until like 2-3 years ago, 3-4 years ago rather, that I actually grew interested in knowing what my name means. Like, it's unbelievable. 20 plus years later, only now did I actually take interest in knowing what my name means. I've never asked my parents. I've never like, Mom, what does my name mean? I never asked. I just knew that my name was Godfrey. Yeah. But anyway, I started researching what Godfrey means, and Godfrey has German origin, meaning peace of God or God's peace. Right. And I was like, oh, okay, that actually also makes sense considering the kind of peace I experienced in my life. Like, I've been through the most, bro. Various experiences growing up, but I've always felt a sense of peace, which didn't make sense to me. And it actually fits the scriptures, peace that surpasses all understanding as presented by Christ. So it's unreal, bro. So I've experienced peace in my life. So now with peace together, I'm zooming in on that now. With peace together, as a creative artist over the years as well, I've developed various mediums and outlets for my creativity, whether it be poetry, singing, rapping, writing, photography, videography, content creation, designing, directing, producing, composing. It's unreal, bro. So I found that, okay, when I do this, I'm so fulfilled, as overwhelming as it can be. But somehow it's all brought together in various ways at various intervals. And when I do what I do, I actually feel a sense of peace, right? So so that's the bit of profoundness in all of it, but also like how it became very real to me was when I was looking forward to starting my YouTube channel. So as a communicator, I was like, I need a platform where I can present my creativity in dynamic ways, expansive and extensive ways. So YouTube seems quite fitting, where I can post videos of me reciting my poetry, my performances, my song performances, my opinion pieces, my commentary. And I was like, okay, I'll be doing a lot of this stuff, but what can I call this YouTube channel? That's when I went further into what Godfrey means. And I was like, wait, I'm a wordsmith, right? I'm a poet. So let me see how I can piece everything together. And as I said that, pieced together, that's when it came. It just hit me like an epiphany, bro, like pieced together. And I thought, okay, when it's all pieced together, if you look at the videos, video is pieced together from the messaging, the editing, the shooting, the direction, and all of that. It's all pieced together. When it comes to a song, when you listen to a song by pieced together, what is pieced together is the instruments, the lyrics, the verse, the chorus, the vocals. Everything is pieced together. When you see a picture that I've taken, everything is pieced together from the framing, from the model if there's a person, the lighting, the angles, the aperture, the shutter speed. Everything is pieced together. So I can go on, but I think you get the gist. And it really came alive when I said to myself, pieced together is so fulfilling, because I feel, and I've already said, I've experienced peace producing this, but now with each person who comes across my art, my prayer is that they also experience a sense of peace. So whether it's my videos,
I definitely do. You gotta say it. I definitely do.
I'm so glad. And so yeah, that's the story behind Piece Together. That's the person behind Piece Together, the heart behind it all. So yeah.
Damn, I love it. Again, such a dense response, but one that needs to be dense to get that context. And I love that. I love that so much. And we'll definitely come back and talk a little bit more about Piece Together. But you mentioned something about growing up. Growing up, you're very fascinated about names. My question is more related to the creative aspect of things. Like, how was it growing up, and what influenced you to be so invested in so many different creative spaces now? Was there anything in your childhood? Was there anything when you were growing up that you can look back to and say, it has to be this, for sure, it has to be this?
It's quite comical as part of my response. So so I was very, very, very adventurous as a child. We were always outdoors. We barely watched TV. So creativity has been embedded in me since day one. Right? In terms of creating our own forms of entertainment, be it through sporty activities, through, social or civil type activities, through sort of educational type activities. So for learning something through interaction and games and socialization. So my creativity has been A1 since day one, right? That rhymed.
Yo!
I like that. I like
Okay.
that.
You need to put that in the lyrics somewhere, in the
so
song somewhere. Let's
so
just write it
yeah,
down.
so
Make sure we don't forget it.
it really has. And so when I chuckled just before I started responding, I was thinking of how creative I had to be when I got into trouble, right?
Now I
Claps
think
once.
everybody here is thinking about how creative they got.
My guy, the stories you have to unleash to absolve yourself, or because it'd be very awkward, my guy. So because I mean, your parents will be looking at you there, and you're like, so
Especially when you're caught red-handed.
my guy, like, and it's not. And what's also quite ironic or very interesting is that I wouldn't be lying. That's the thing. I'm a terrible liar. I'm a bad liar. So I choose peace. I choose truth. But it's just how creative I had to be to get out of very sticky situations. So yeah, I think so. For me, that's where my creative journey has started. That my adventures as a child, very much informed the creative artist that I am today. But also, I think I've been blessed with the liberty to really express myself freely. So my parents have been very supportive throughout, since like the choir days in grade 2 or grade 3, coming to my performances and stuff. And then also even just having the freedom and liberty to be creative as I've grown through my teen years and stuff. I've been in spaces that have incubated my creativity. And so, that's been something that's really, really edified me and blessed me so much to be as creative as I am.
Huge one is finding yourself as a young individual who
Yeah.
has people looking after them, having an environment where expressing yourself creatively is supported.
Yeah.
And I know, unfortunately, coming from a country like Zim,
Yeah.
it's not something that's really looked at as okay,
Yeah.
maybe you can do it in your own time, but the focus is school, man. Like, I'm
True.
not saying there's anything wrong with school. Like,
Yeah.
100%, let's get that education. But I do feel like there's a lot of potential that's suppressed.
Yeah.
As a result of not having open mind. So
Yeah.
shout out to mom and dad for being able to support you and give you a space and an environment where you felt comfortable expressing yourself.
Yeah.
You didn't feel like, you had to squeeze in some extra time somewhere in the week, somewhere in the weekend,
Yeah.
to do what you enjoy and kind of fight for it for yourself.
Yeah.
So I think that's something to be very, very grateful for, because a lot of people don't get that, growing
Yeah.
up, and they kind of have to fight for it. And it does suppress a lot of creative minds, unfortunately,
Yeah.
What I wanted to touch on now was something that's, I think, been affecting everybody in about the last year and a half, and that's this pandemic that's going on across the world. How do you feel about it? I think maybe generally, and I think it's a two-part question. It would be, how has the pandemic affected you as a creative person?
Okay, so I have some reservations for this Panasonic, this pandemic.
That's fine. That's okay.
Firstly, I'm very skeptical of what is really going on with this thing. Like, is it?
You and me, we speak the same language.
My guy.
Let me just put it out there.
Like,
you and me, you're speaking my language right now.
Same WhatsApp group. You and I, like this.
Same WhatsApp group, like this. Nick.
Yeah. So firstly, yeah, my reservations. I'm just skeptical, man. Like, it's worrying that, like, so many rumors came about whether this thing is legit, whether it was engineered by humans, whether it yeah. So I mean, the bottom line. Conspiracies aside, the bottom line is that this thing messed up a lot of things, right? Being economies, being eventing, scheduling, planning, development, all of that stuff. So even for me as well, dude, it's crazy. So so first, just how I've thought about it is that it is scary that, people are passing away, people are dying, people are being affected, but also at the same time I have a lot of question marks. So that's the general remark on COVID. But also now, as it's affected me as a creative artist, and I can even extend this to other creative artists, I think a lot of frustration has been experienced in how limiting it has been for mobility, for planning, for projecting things, for casting vision, all of that. And so it has been a bit of an inconvenience, but I'm actually quite grateful for it in another aspect as well, where my yeah. So I'll double click on that. It definitely has inspired me to be creative, or even more creative in different ways. So one very real example is that as a photographer, and extrovert to some extent, I largely depend on my interpersonal connections with people, like in-person connections with people, right? So if it's the photo shoots, if it's the event coverage, which I really favor, knowing that with the hard lockdown we were limited, and so that income stream, or that means of being creative, was virtually cut off, not even limited, but cut off, right? So now if I was relying on that for income, I had to find other means to earn money as a creative artist, and I turned to editing, and that is actually a praise report or testament of God's provision, because I naturally wouldn't have turned to it, where I favor shooting. I favor being in the field, action points, instead of, being in front of the laptop and editing and stuff. But that's what put bread on the table over the very hard months when it was very, very stringent, right? So being in my creativity, you from I think that's where my directing and my editing and my creative vision and creative eye were nurtured. So that was the good that came out of it. It also made me more creative in extending my reach. So again, where I would normally have been sort of casting my net as wide as possible in person or with more mobility, I had to now rely on digital or virtual means and tools. So yeah, it's actually been quite interesting. It's been a very eventful journey. Dealing with this Panasonic that
Panorama.
so it definitely has been scary at various intervals, like, yo, God, what's gonna happen? But also at the same time, it's also been very exciting. Where shucks, even in the midst of in the midst, for those who missed that reference, in the midst of this pandemic, I've managed to achieve this. God, thank you. Right, dude, like last year, guys, I managed to finish an entire album, right?
I watch. Mira, I was gonna ask that. Saka, you can't be
okay.
The podcast you way Saka. But I'm kidding. You can speak.
No,
that was actually gonna be my next question, which is
no, it's fine. Okay, so let me leave it, and then you would bring us back there. But the point is that so much goodness came out of what was a very dire situation. And like, dude, God is a provider, and he's made some miracles come out of nothing. So yeah. Yeah.
I mean, he's been doing it since the creation of the world in and of itself, bro. Like I share the same sentiment with you. Like in each and everything you've just said, it's that when you ask me in general, I'm also a bit skeptical about this panorama, bro. Like so many question marks, bro. But I think that's not the focus. Like I'm saying, or like we're saying earlier, it's being in any kind of situation and being grateful and thankful to God always. So whether it's real, whether it's fake, whatever's going on and all the hardships, I'm not like saying it's insignificant, but I'm saying there's still so much to be grateful for, you know. So I think that's a conversation that's been had consistently. It's like, okay, fine, we know it's tough, and we're going through all these tough things, and that's understandable, and we feel pain, and we cry with those we need to cry with. But like, what are the good things that are happening? Because that's what keeps us going. And for me, it's this podcast. Like, I'm grateful that COVID happened, because without the time that lockdown afforded me, I wouldn't have been able to record and do this thing. So I'm grateful for some things, a lot of things, as a matter of fact, because of the situation that we find ourselves in, which I think is super cool. But you've already touched on it. People already know I'm going to ask it. You might as well just get into it. It's the concept of dropping this album in that space as well. I want you to talk about the album and the making of it, how long the build up was, but then having to release it in such an interesting time.
Yeah. It's quite the journey, man. Like I think even just the name of the album speaks to my experiences
I
as
love that
well.
album. I love that album. Yo.
Oh man, I really do, and I'm glad you do, bro. Like Munondi Gonera, right? In Shona, it means you are so good to me. You enable me. You strengthen me. You are the cheat code in my success. You know what I'm saying? Like yeah, bruh. God, like, man, with everything that I've envisioned over the years from when I was really young to what I've hoped for, Lord, you've enabled me and graced me to do this. So that's kind of what it means to me, that album. The songs are all about proclamation and declaration of God's goodness throughout the song in different ways, in different messaging. But that's the focal point. How we went about it, I recorded it over a span of just over a year. So it took me almost 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, because I think I started in late 2018. Then, yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, bruh. And what's actually quite unreal is just how I managed to fund this whole thing. This it cost me a lot of money, but considering that I'm balling on a student budget, you know, you know what I'm saying? No, like I've predominantly been living on a student budget. You know, support from parents, guardians, uncles, aunts, extended family, friends. Funding this thing was extremely difficult. And I think that's also one of the reasons why it took quite long. But also it was necessary breaks that I took because even mentally, bro, emotionally, like you really pour your heart into this thing, you know? And so sometimes when it's difficult to get to the studio, sometimes when it's difficult to finish a song, you're frustrated about how it sounds, how it's not sounding. It really spanned over a long time, but I was happy with it because it's like, hey, it'll happen when it'll happen, and I don't want to force it. So, I started working. So I've got friends that we you know, from back home in Zimbabwe, and we all found ourselves here in South Africa for various reasons, for school, work, etc. And so, you know, Njabulo Dube, he's a very good friend of mine from church back at home. And so there's an artist, there's a mutual friend of ours. I heard his song. This guy called did he change his stage name? Shucks. Yeah, I've forgotten.
Why did you do this to us?
My guy, I've forgotten his name. Hectic. But anyway, we've got a mutual friend. His stage name, yeah, but it's fine. Anyway, he did a song for the gent, right? It's like, this song is amazing, sir. Who did your song? Njabulo did the song for me. I was like, Jabulo's making music like this. Hectic. So I just kind of had in my mind that I'm going to do work with Njabulo one day. Dandy. I'm in SA, and then the one day.
And what year was this? What year was this?
This was in 2016. So I cast it and presented to the Lord that, Lord, I want to do a song with Njabulo one day. I don't know when, but it's going to happen. Fast forward to 2018. I'm inspired now. I'm feeling like I'm ready. I start looking for Njabulo and I find him. He's an essay. I was like, bruh, you're an essay, nigga. We're coming through, and let's do this. Let's work. I've got songs. I think it's enough for an EP. I get there, and so Njabulo, he works with this guy called Simba Moyo. I get there. I'm presenting these songs to them because I play keys as well and I sing. So I'm playing these songs. I'm like, Bana, you're onto something, Bana. Like, and it's not just an EP. You've got songs enough for an album. I'm like, bro. So since then, it's just, and they've really seen me grow as an artist as well. So I think it's crazy how even some of the ideas from 2016, 2017, they started maturing 2019, early 2020, because what would happen with some of the songs, on my way to the studio to record one song, I'd be starting to write another one. Like I'm in the train and I'm humming melodies.
What?
So it's crazy, dude. Like it's unreal.
I actually remember you saying that on the Impact Radio
Yeah.
sit down interview. I remember you actually mentioning that.
Yeah.
I thought to be pretty wild. Like, doesn't your brain just relax?
Yeah.
A bit? Like,
Yeah. It's
just keeps working.
It's unreal, bro. So yeah, so stuff like that. Just the journey has been so humbling. I've learned a lot about myself as an artist. I've learned about myself as a musician, as a creative artist. I've learned a lot about the process of production. I've had to do crash courses on marketing, the music business, because now it's not enough to be talented and gifted. You gotta market yourself. You gotta put yourself out there. So the journey has been insane, but it's been also, as I've shared earlier, that it's very fulfilling, bro. Because knowing that you are where you are supposed to be, you are where you've wanted and longed to be, and what you've hoped and desired to see. Yo, that's getting so poetic. Is
Feel free. The mic is yours.
what has been loading is finally just materializing, and it's so humbling, bro. So yeah, that's the journey from Munonti Gonera. Even the number of tracks we decided on, I was leading the way with that, where it's like, look, let's have 7 tracks, because 7 is the number of completion. Come on, somebody. Yeah. So, dude, there's like prominent like significance and meaning and sentimentality in everything about that album. You know, like with the first song, God, there's no one like you. Beautiful, and I'm saying beautiful, be glorified, called to worship. It speaks to the purpose of our lives. Ndimi moga ishe, and what else is there? Ndinovimba nemi, I trust in you, I rely on you, God. And finally, Munonti Gonera, like, yo, everything about that album speaks to God's goodness, His place in my life, and how I've seen Him work. So yeah.
But I love how you touched upon that journey, and back in 2016, taking your music to these people. You mentioned Njabulo. Hey, Njabulo and Simba. But how important is it, or how grateful are you for people who give you a chance when you have nothing on your CV? You just come as a dude who's got no backing. And this is in every aspect of being a creative who's branding himself. Being a photographer, being a videographer, being a musician. Someone's gonna take you on and say, you know what, I want to interview you on this radio channel, and you're like, you're a nobody, or I want to hire you for this gig, I want to hire you for this wedding, and you've literally just bought your camera. How important are those people? How significant are those people in your life, and how grateful are you for them?
My guy, it means everything. Like, you really are always at a stage, or initially at a stage, where exposure really is like something that is like pure gold, bro. Visibility, I've learned very recently, is integral in your journey, where people need to know you, people need to see you, people need to at least be aware of who you are. And if someone can give you a platform, I think it's a vote of confidence to an extent. It's that endorsement, you know, considering that considering that they don't know you, you really could tank this thing, right?
That's so true.
And that's something that's very real. You really could just, botch this thing and just mess it up, and it's their name on the line. And so when someone says, come through, give it a shot and do what you gotta do, you take it with both hands, bro. And you really, I think expressing your gratitude is materializes in you killing it and doing the most. And I've really done that. I've seen that happen at various intervals in my founding years and founding experiences, where someone gives me an opportunity and I show up, bro. And it's really, yeah. Like even with photography, someone says, let's say, you have the instance where someone says, okay, I'm paying you for an hour, or I'm giving you an hour, and then you give them 2. You know what I'm saying? And it goes a long way, man. It really goes a long way. So yeah,
it does go a long way, and it's small things, little things like that. I was engaged in a conversation with another photographer, and he's like, you know what? I asked him, what was your big break? Like now he's an ambassador with Nikon, and he's doing all these big things, all these big brands. And I was like, but what? How do you get to where you are? And he's like, if I told you that the difference between where I am now and where I was then was one photo shoot with a real estate agent who I was just super kind to.
Yeah.
He was like in his little room where he had hired out, and he was taking photos, and he took a headshot of this guy and they interacted for like 30 minutes, but he treated him so well that the dude recommended him to his wife, who worked with the big brand. And from then on, it just picked up.
Wow.
So like you're saying, I mean, you come to my place, or I've got a studio and I offer you a drink. I offer you a coffee while you wait. I offer you, I engage in a conversation and I ask you how you're doing. I just don't come in as a client. They told my photos and that we don't really engage in conversation. It's small things where someone's like, recommend a photographer. They're like, nah, that guy really cares, or really asks me questions. And it might be subconscious to them, but it does resonate and it sticks with them forever.
Yeah.
So I love what you're mentioning there. Show up and give back more than was asked for. I did want to ask, and I did want to know what your favorite song on the album is, and why particularly that song.
Hey, ooh, that makes me feel like a parent who's being asked, who is your favorite child?
Who's your favorite kid? Oh,
yeah. No, but it is well. It is well. We like metaphors and analogies for a reason, because they're not the real thing. So I am not yet a parent, and I don't have to pick my favorite child. But from the album, my favorite song is "Called to Worship."
Okay.
Yeah. Very interestingly enough.
Very interesting, actually. I wouldn't have thought that. I personally would have not thought that. But why? Why that particular song?
I think with that song, I really extended myself creatively. It really, so I mean, we can be quite conventional about songs, knowing that a song has drums, pianos, guitars, it has vocals, it has a verse and a chorus and a bridge. But Call to Worship is a bit different. It's very personal. It's very in your face. It really kicks you, like it tugs at the soul's strings, it's very convicting. So we are called to worship, and you really declare God's glory and sovereignty over everything that is, including yourself. So when even with the words like mountains will bow, hills will arise, responding to your glory, your goodness, your magnificence. And that's so profound, bro. So yeah, bruh, that song wrecks me, dude. It really is it's profound. So that for me is my favorite song, just because how different it is, how personal it is.
It definitely is different, different vibe, a different feel to it. I think the whole album, generally speaking, is a masterpiece. But I appreciate you sharing that. It does mean a lot. I only have about two more questions left, and I think we're going to round it up. I think we've been chatting for a good amount of time. And the first question is, what's the biggest lesson you've learned? I think maybe since the first time you held a camera, since the first time you realized that creativity is within you, it's something you want to do long term. What has being in a creative space taught you?
Yo, the biggest lesson. That's a difficult one. Okay, no,
It can be more than one.
okay. I don't know if it will be the biggest lesson, but I think, in fact, yeah, it is. Okay, it is. It is probably up there. But I think one. I think. Ooh, this was in July 2013. I can say to some retrospectively, I can say it changed my life. So I think, yeah, it is probably one of the biggest lessons. With my photography, with my creativity, I learned that the value of your work is beyond you or what you could anticipate.
Poetic.
Yeah.
Please elaborate, please.
Yeah. So, and this lesson, as I said, it's retrospective. It's only when you look back. But how it happened. So, in that year is when I really started taking photography a lot more seriously. It was still very much a hobby, but it was a passion for me and stuff. And so, once upon a time, I was I had my digital camera then at the time. I was taking my digital camera everywhere, capturing moments, documenting and stuff until, it became part of my brand, right? The camera guy, the picture guy, right? But at some point, a friend of mine invited me to take pictures at her birthday dinner, right? So to me, it was just another outing where, hey, free food, right? No, listen, we cannot overlook free food, guys. Like that's key. Anyway, no, I like things, guys, and also food is godly. So I remember I said I like godly things. So yeah, so I'm like, oh, dope, cool. When is the thing? It's on Thursday. I remember that it was a Thursday and it was in July. So anyway, she's like, yeah, no, please come take pictures at my birthday dinner. So I'm like, dandy, I'll see you there. And then she asked me a question. Hey, that shook all my foundations. She was like, how much is it? And I was like, what? What do you mean? How much is what? And because I'm like, hey, like, I mean, yeah, cool. We're doing this birthday dinner thing. Yay! He's like, how much? How much is it? I was like, how much is what? How much is it gonna be for the photography? I was like, oh, so at that moment, that's when I realized that the value of what I do, what I create, what I'm about, what I'm passionate about, goes beyond what I could ever envision or what I could ever assume, because someone else wants to place a value on it. That for me, so I think that's one of the biggest lessons for me that I've learned, that your value, it goes beyond you and what you could ever perceive. Yeah.
Wow, that is deep.
And I mean, that event, it's crazy, bro. I mean, that day I was like, okay, I'll get back to you. Did I not spend the next 3 hours researching on how to price my photography? Dog, man, it was just a mess.
But that's real as well, bro. That's real. Yeah. That's that go-getter energy. It reminds me of so many situations I've been in where someone's like, do you do chakadai? And I'm like, yes, I do. And they're like, how much do you charge? And then I go to Google and it takes me like 5 hours to respond. I'm like, how much do you charge for ABCD? But it's that mentality, Akuti. I've got the gear. I've got what it takes. I think I can do it. I should be able to do it. I've just never done it before, And I'm researching how to price myself. But I love it so much.
Yeah, no, dude. So cool. That moment changed my life, bro. How much is it? That was it. And every time I've thought about my creativity, there's that question I ask myself, the value that I place on it. And it doesn't even have to be monetary, but how much time is it worth? How much effort is it worth? How much of your heart and your commitment and and your dedication is it worth? And that's value. And yeah, so it extends. It goes beyond you when you think about your creativity.
You and your words.
I'm a wordist.
You're a wordist for sure.
Yeah, bro.
I mean, but I can relate as well. Like, it's very clear and obvious, easy to understand what you're trying to communicate here, and it's making so much sense as well. And I appreciate you getting vulnerable and sharing all these things you've been sharing in the last hour or so. I don't think it's an easy thing to open up and speak about certain things, but you've definitely answered all these questions with ease, and I appreciate that. And the last one, question to sum it all up is, what's your favorite part about all this, man? This entire life thing, this creative journey thing, being in the space, being a Christian, just everything in general.
Yeah.
What do you enjoy most about all of it?
I've said to a lot of people, specifically my friends, close family, etc., my community of family and friends, that I genuinely love people. I have a love for people, and I've found that my creativity, my art, or the fruits of my creativity have allowed me to connect with people, more people, and people in spaces that I never thought I would meet them. And I'll give examples for that. So I think that's the most exciting thing, that I get to communicate. I'm sorry, to commune and fellowship with people in just so many expansive and broad ways through my creativity. A prime example. I just thought of something with my wordplay. A prime sorry. Okay, so
Now you
let
have
me.
to share it. You can't
Yes.
just continue.
Okay.
Just hanging, not knowing.
Okay. So picture this. A prime way of seeing it is that my camera. You see where I'm going with this, right?
This guy.
Right.
No, I get you. I'm following.
Yeah. No, zoom in, right?
And he said zoom. Oh no. Somebody stop him. He's on fire.
No, bro. Focus. Okay,
Oh,
focus.
man.
Focus.
Guys. That's problem.
No, let me snap back. No, so the thing is, I mean, with my photography, on a real note though, let me develop this picture. Okay, I'm serious now. Well, it's really allowed me to enter rooms that I never would have imagined I'd enter. I mean, some of the files. So you know how a memory card can max out, where it's like your file imaging goes by the thousands, right? I've maxed out my memory card several times now over the years, where it's like 9,999, and then it starts back at 0001. Some of the pictures, right? So out of the tens of thousands of images I've captured, I've captured images of prominent celebrities, artists, prolific people, influential people, being in rooms that I've never thought I would ever be in, like board meetings that I've covered that anyone and everyone would dream of, right? I'm not gonna give examples just because, but
ability, just for ability reasons.
confidentiality and all of that, but Yeah, no, guys. Anyone could be watching this, and I could be out here. Um, no, but
Oh,
it
man.
really has allowed me to. It's the exciting thing of meeting people that I never thought I've met. Like through just my camera. My camera has literally been like an access card, guy. Even at festivals, bro. When you're part of media, you enter shows that you didn't pay for. It's a hack. It's a little hack, if I can just put it out there. Um, or like I swear to you, I remember there was this one time at Haifa, right? So there are different shows that allow different access, and I was just walking to buy food because food is manandi, but also the boy was hungry, right? A random artist just called me up like, "Hey, are you a photographer? Are you part of media? Hey, come capture this." And I went into this show just like that, dog. Like I'm now capturing, and it's some of the best images I've ever taken, bruh. Like because of the stage lighting and stuff, I didn't have access into that auditorium, but dude, just because I had my camera, it just created a memory for me that is just unreal. So yeah, man. I mean, I could tell more and more stories, but yeah, as I've said, the focal point, the focal, the focal point, the focal point, the focal point
can't,
is
man.
the. No, man. Listen, the thing
Too
about
much.
metaphors and
Too much.
imagery, I'm all about it. Um,
Ah,
the
yeah.
focal point is that people is where is what my creativity is centered around. I want to bless people. I want to feed off people's reactions and responses. I want to connect with people. I want to inspire people. I want to learn from people. And yeah, man.
We love that. And then, again, Nick and Nick, you and I, same WhatsApp group. It's what I do, man. It's the biggest joy. It's if I wasn't doing this, I would have never met you. Like straight up. That's just how it is, you know. But I've learned so much. I've experienced so much. I've laughed so much. I'm gonna leave here a more fulfilled human being because of another individual. Because of another individual. So I value people as well, man. I think there's human beings and their brains and their hearts and their emotions and just the interaction. That's golden. That's something you can never actually pay for. If you want it genuine, if you want it raw, if you want it legit, it's a gift from God. And I'm grateful
Yeah.
for you and everyone else in the
No,
world.
man.
Like
I'm,
honestly,
I'm grateful for you too, bro. And dude, your platform is amazing, bro. It's inspiring, and I definitely want to see you excel through this platform, reaching the every corner of the world, man. Just from I mean, conversation is just so pure. The conversation is so pure. It's so sincere, and there's so much goodness. So yeah, man. Thanks for this opportunity, bro. It's been so good.
it's been an absolute pleasure. It's definitely been the longest, and I'm happy that it is the longest. But
Yeah.
it's been so easy as well. It just feels
Yeah.
like we can continue going. We can continue
Yeah.
touching on different topics, and it's so
Yeah.
expansive. I'm super keen as well, like I said, to see your podcast develop.
Thank you so much, man. No, it's gonna be a
content.
jam, bro. It's gonna be a jam.
It's definitely gonna be a jam.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
Looking forward to more. I'm just again, thank you for taking time out. Hopefully sooner rather than later, you and I can link up somewhere, make art, make content, and engage in
Yeah.
conversation.
Well, listen, I'm definitely anticipating goodness from that encounter. Yeah, fun times ahead. Fun times ahead, bro.
Amen and amen. Thanks.
Oh, wait. Amen. Cheers, bro. Thanks a lot.